Hi, welcome to Boring Money, Rich Life. I'm your host, Joy Hicks, and today we're going to talk about how much money you actually need to retire. So, I did talk about 401ks in a previous video, and I also let you guys know in my last video that I met with my financial planner and she kind of like shocked me with how much money I actually spend per year. But what she did, she created like a financial plan for me, and I'll do a separate video just because some people have never worked with a financial planner before. So I'll kind of talk about my experience and I'll also talk about like the full plan in a separate video. But today I just wanted to talk about how much you actually need to retire because I feel like most of us don't really think about retirement. We really kind of focus just on the now. And we're not really thinking about like 40 years down the road. So, in my financial plan that she gave to me, it has a specific section just for retirement and how much money I should be saving now if I want to retire at a specific age. So, when I first started working with her, I let her know, like, I don't want to work forever. That is not my goal. I'm not somebody who wants to be, 75 still working. So, she was like, what is your ideal number? Like, when would you actually like to retire? And I told her 53. And then she was like, okay, and if that doesn't happen, what's kind of like your realistic number? And then I told her 65. So in the financial plan that she created for me, she gave me two different scenarios. So one, if I were to retire at 53, and then another one if I retire at 65. And I felt like it would be good to talk about that with you guys because I feel like a lot of us don't want to work that long. So I'll just let you know, kind of like, again, this is all based on like my numbers, my journey. It's not going to be specific to your situation because we probably don't make exactly the same. We probably don't have the exact same job or whatever. But just to kind of give you an idea of what you might need for yourself to retire. She looked at my retirement accounts. I have two currently because I did work for the government for a little bit. So I have like a couple $1,000s in a retirement account with them that I actually need to move over. And then I have my current job's retirement, which I've actively been contributing to. So she was pretty much just giving me the total of those and what I make per year. And that's kind of how they decide like what you'll need to live comfortably in retirement. So they do say your income might decrease a little bit because at that time, hopefully your home is paid off, hopefully your cars are paid off. So ideally, you wouldn't be having a mortgage. You would still have like homeowners insurance and property taxes, and of course, like vehicle insurance. But ideally, you wouldn't have all these high car notes. You can probably have more money to travel, but you shouldn't have a mortgage. So both of these scenarios are kind of based off that type of lifestyle. So she was saying if I were to retire at 65, I would need $3,990,000 in order to live comfortably and retire by 2060. So pretty much in order to make that happen, I would need $373,000 in today's time to start compounding over time to get to that amount, which is like a big dose of reality. And then she was saying if I wanted to be more aggressive and I wanted to retire by the age of 53, I would need $3,630,000 in order to be able to retire by 2048. And in today's dollars, that's $765,000 that would pretty much compound over time. So let's say if I have that big chunk of money and I put it into a retirement account and didn't touch it again until 53, ideally based off like the market and compounding and all those things, by then it would be $3.6 million. So when she told me that, I was like, oh, okay. And it kind of put like a fire under my butt because she was telling me like I'm really not maxing out my 401k. So I guess kind of based off like the numbers that she was looking at, I'm pretty much contributing maybe like $10,800 a year towards my retirement. So she was saying that in order to get to where I want to be, I actually need to be like maxing out my 401k every year. And I think the current amount that you can contribute to your 401k, I believe she said is like 23,500 right now. And of course that number can grow like based off inflation and things like that. But right now that's kind of the max, and I'm only contributing like half of that. I'm only less than half of that, right? I'm only contributing 10,000 a year right now. Now, mind you, in my last video, I shared that I spent $8,000 on vacations last year. So ideally, I could have contributed at least 18,000 towards my 401k last year if I would have been more aggressive, didn't take any vacations, things like that. But ideally, I could have did that, right? So, like I said, this was kind of like a dose of reality for me because we're not really thinking like, oh yeah, if I want to live this rich life in retirement, I want to travel whenever I want to. Of course, I don't want to be working, but I'm still going to have bills and I want to be able to shop and go out to eat and all these things without working. I don't think we really realize that we do actually need like a lot of money to make that happen. So, actually seeing these numbers written down, ideally, and this is just for me as a single person, like this is if I never got married again. She was saying I would need anywhere from 3.6 to 3.9 million dollars. So you can imagine what that number would be for like a married couple, right? But of course, a married couple has the ability to put more towards their retirement because they can work together to do so. But this was just as a single person. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's a lot more than I thought. So if we go with the first scenario where I retire at 65, she was saying that ideally I would need to save $23,400 each year. And of course, that probably would increase a little bit to kind of keep up with inflation. But just working now from the age of 30 to 65, I would need to contribute 23,400 each year. If I go with the second scenario, which again is a lot more aggressive because you have a shorter amount of time, then I would need to contribute $62,100 a year. And when I tell you, when I tell you that is a lot of money. And like I said, this was a big dose of reality to me because, I think our generation, we just tend to kind of like glamorize things like, oh, yeah, I want to retire at this age. I want to fire at this age or whatever. But I don't think people really understand the amount of money that you need to be putting aside into investing accounts. And I'm not talking about just saving that money because we do know if you just save your money due to inflation, you're going to lose your money over time. Like your dollar is going to be worth less if you just continue to save your money. So we're talking about the money that you're putting aside to invest. Now, she was a little bit more conservative. So this is strictly just a 401k. There are definitely different retirement accounts out there, but this one is specifically if I were to stay at my job using my employer match of $4,300 over the next 35 years. This is what I would need to be investing each year in order to get to that 3.6 million. The one thing that I do like about this retirement plan is the fact that she does give me action steps to do with it. So she was saying that as my money starts to increase, I should plan to increase my 401k contributions as well. So she was saying right now my goal is to at least double my contribution. So right now I'm giving 6% to my 401k. So she wanted me to at least get to 12% as soon as possible. So she was saying by doing that, she wants me to kind of do 50-50 to where 6% of my contributions would be going to like a pre-tax 401k, and then the other 6% would be going to a Roth, because she was saying she recommends to kind of play with both tax strategies. So Roth IRAs, that's going to be after tax money. So that means you've already paid taxes on that money. And yes, you might have fees when you're ready to pull that money out, but you don't have fees and taxes. With pre-tax money, you get to put money in there tax-free, but when it's time to pull that money out for retirement, you're going to be taxed and you're going to have fees. So she was recommending just kind of having both, because I might be able to keep some money in there for a little bit longer, depending on how much money I actually need at that time. And then she was saying by the end of this year, again, I want to try to increase it at least a little bit. But what she really wants me to do is to increase my income and then also get to the point to where I am reaching that 23,500 where I am maxing out my 401k. And I think, if I'm understanding this correctly, in order to actually get to that max, I would actually need to be contributing 10% pre-tax and then 10% Roth. So the 12% is kind of just to double what I'm doing now, but ideally contributing 20% of my income towards my retirement. And whew, I'm not gonna lie, I have told you guys many times that money is very psychological. So, like I said, for me, it's nothing for me to spend $2,000 on a trip. But then when I'm like, ooh, I gotta just give this money, and I don't know what's gonna happen in 30 years. It's kind of hard, but the goal is to reframe my thinking so that way I can start building my rich life because, of course, I would love to have $3 million when it's time for me to retire. I would love to have way more than $3 million when it's time for me to retire. So, this is just one strategy when it comes to retirement. Again, 401ks are not the only type of retirement accounts out there, but this is just kind of what she provided to me as a more like conservative type of plan. Now, I am not a financial advisor. I got this from a financial advisor. She's not going to be somebody who I keep like on payroll. This is just like something that I wanted to do just to kind of get on track right now. So I'll probably reach out to her maybe like once a year just to kind of reevaluate these different things. I would say for yourself, you can definitely go online and get your own plan. Like there's tons of financial advisors out there, but I would say this is a good start. And like I said, I'm definitely going to create another video where I actually do go through the full thing with you guys because this is just one portion of it, but it's kind of like a full financial planning document. So I'll definitely go over it with you. I might not give you every single detail, of course, but just some highlights of what she shared with me. And like I said, it was a tough pill to swallow, but at least now I have an idea of what I'm working towards because that's the whole point. If you really don't know what you plan to do with your money, then you kind of fail to plan. So I feel like at least I know what I'm aiming for, what I ideally would like to have in retirement once I get to that age. So, yeah. So, as always, what is one boring thing that you can do today to start fueling your rich life? Again, I'm your host, Joy Hicks. Thank you for watching and be sure to subscribe.